Have you ever wondered why there is so much unpredictability in the Earth's climate? Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Leslie, and today I will be talking to you about climate change, and I will be using this visual aid to show you what exactly climate change is. So something that I've noticed is that not many people are fully aware or understand how important and how bad climate change is. I don't think they get the full understanding and why it is important to kind of try and slow down climate change. So I'm going to talk to you about 3 main points, and those 3 main points are going to be the evidence, causes and effect, and the solutions that are available to try and slow down climate change and eventually bring it to a complete stop. So my first point is going to be the evidence, and on this first slide it has a graph that shows the elevated sea height throughout the years. So according to NASA.gov, there has been a 2.05 degree Fahrenheit rise since the 19th century, and that rise is specifically about the ocean sea level. According to NASA.gov, there has been carbon dioxide and other human emissions that have been released into the atmosphere that have not been good for the Earth's climate. So also according to NASA.gov, there have been 6 warmest years since 2014 that have been documented and are on record as the 6 hottest years. And those hottest years are because of climate change. It's an unstable climate that, it just can't seem to find the stability to just, be normal temperature. According to NASA.gov, the ocean absorbs most of the heat that is released from the sun. And so the ocean then stores this heat, and it's just kind of a pattern. According to the globalchange.org, greenhouse gas is absorbed by the ocean, and this type of gas is good. We do not want the gas that is, man-made, such as fossil fuels or oils. So my second main point is going to be the causes and effect, and this slide gives you a breakdown of what exactly occurs during climate change. So something that NASA.gov mentions is that not all gases can be broken down into the atmosphere or escape. The atmosphere can only chemically and physically break down certain gases. It cannot break down the man-made ones such as fossil fuels or oils. It just can't get those gases broken down in the atmosphere. So another thing that NASA.gov mentions is that the human activity is kind of responsible for the type of natural gases that are released into the atmosphere. More man-made gases released doesn't give the atmosphere enough time to break down greenhouse gas. So NASA also mentions that global temperature will rise when we release more and more of these man-made gases. So fossil fuels, when it breaks down, this leads to an increase of carbon dioxide being released into the atmosphere, according to NASA.gov. So because of this leads to high temperatures rising and the sea ice, like in Antarctica and the North Pole, to melt and break apart. Because when climate change happens, this leads to drought and unpredictable flooding, which then leads to agriculture not being able to fully produce their crops and their food, and then this leads to that not being able to ship to countries, and we just won't have food. So my third main point is going to be the solutions and how we can lower the effects of climate change, and here's a small photo showing you what we can do to do our part. So solutions. So Paris Agreement was signed in 2015 according to the United Nations. Nations across and countries came together and signed an agreement to try and do their part and see how we can lower our harmful activity that we are doing to the Earth's atmosphere, and in that decrease climate change. The nations wanted to make a positive change, and in that they also wanted to help the developing countries try and do their part and to try and have a positive outcome. So NASA.gov also likes to release scientific data to the public so that the public is fully aware that climate change is serious and that we must do our part. They want the public to know exactly the numbers and what we can do to try and lower that. They also mentioned that there are 2 approaches to slow down that NASA mentions, which is mitigation, which reduces the gas and stabilizes the levels of heat gas that is released in the atmosphere. And then adaptation is the second point that NASA.gov mentions, which is basically leading us to adapt to a pipeline climate change. So because of this, I think that we as, people, we should really take care of the Earth's climate, because, our generation, if we have kids, we want our kids to kind of live in an Earth that's healthy. So I think that we should try and, walk places, not use our vehicles as much. We want to try and help the Earth's climate so that we don't, ruin it, and we just don't want to do that. And so to conclude, I think that with the causes and effect and the evidence that was provided, I think that it should lead us to want and use those solutions that I mentioned to try and better the Earth's climate. And so climate change is not going to go away unless we do our part to stop and slow it down. Thank you. That is all.